welcome back to another episode of Energy in Africa. And I think that this time you guys are going to find this a quite intriguing and inspiring piece of development that's happening on the continent. Today's guest is a gentleman by the name of Chris Horner, who's the CEO of Powerhive. And Powerhive is in the midst of changing the way we see energy and transportation on the continent. Now, some of you know that we may have done it in the past, a year or two ago, a recording with somebody that did electric bikes, but like everything else in technology, the leaps, the bounds, the advancements are outstanding. And Chris in East Africa is leading the way on this front. So what I'd like to do now is bring in Chris Horner. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Chris.
Good stuff. So what I'd like to start off by doing is let everybody know a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you came from and how you ended up in East Africa.
Thanks, Chris. So, yeah, as you said, my name is Christopher Horner. I'm the CEO and founder of Powerhive. I have been living here in Africa for about 7 years, but working here for about 12 years, actually. So I ended up here because I saw an opportunity to make a real difference in the energy access space. So saw that, there were millions and millions of people here that didn't have access to clean and reliable electricity. And I thought, maybe we could do something about that. And my last company, I developed the first portable solar device. We sold about 3 million units to Apple and Best Buy and all over the world in terms of retail. But then found sort of the product market fit was best here in Kenya, where I'm currently residing. And so from that endeavor and venture back in the early 2000s to where I am today, where we actually became Kenya's first privately licensed utility and have since built probably one of the most exciting energy networks that basically are powered by solar that use smart batteries for our electric motorcycle business. We sort of really looked at the space and really looked at how the space is evolving and thought, as about 4 years ago, we really started investing in the mobility side of the energy transition.
Now, you just don't become an entrepreneur in energy and creating high-end stuff just out of the back of your garage. What sort of inspiration did you have to being an entrepreneur along the way? What inspired you?
I think really it came down to just pushing myself to do something that was impactful, that had checked the boxes in terms of environmental sustainability, social impact, and of course profit as well in terms of financial return. So, I find that a lot of my friends and investors have a similar sort of ethos, and so we got together and started thinking about what we could do, and well, here I am.
Okay, so here you are. You're living in Kenya, and you've got energy at your heart and soul. So we've talked about this a little bit, but the idea of the electric bicycle and technology and how it's all weaving in together. Tell us a little bit about why electricity and motorcycles is a good fit.
Well, it's actually really simple. So we're focused on electric motorcycles. In particular, we've also worked with electric cars as well, and three wheelers. But our focus at the moment is really electric motorcycles. So if you take a step back and you think about the supply chain of oil and gas, it's just very, very long and expensive and dirty, right? And but if you just look at the dollars and cents for a minute, and you think about the cost of refining crude oil or just oil, and then turning that into gasoline, it's incredibly costly and inefficient compared to what we're doing, which is basically converting solar energy, direct power from the sun into a battery, straight into an electric motorcycle, and then allowing that motorcycle to really do what it does here in this part of the world, which is a lot of work. And and what I mean by that is the motorcycle in this part of the world and in Africa is really a workhorse. And electricity is just a much better way and more efficient way to basically power that those vehicles if you can get all the other things really right in terms of performance, cost, and obviously robustness as well, which is something that we're pretty proud of.
Okay, so I am man about town in Nairobi, and I say, I want an electric bike. Do I have choices? Are you the only guy in town? What am I doing next? Like, how am I coming into Powerhive and saying, this is what I want to do?
So there are choices right now. We're one of about three or four credible companies that one could go to. We think that we're the best. In fact, we have a lot of reasons to believe that, but I won't get into all those details. But essentially, you walk into our showroom. You may have reached that showroom because you met one of our sales attendants at the Shell gas station or the Rubis gas station, which is where our so we're partnered with those companies,
Oh, that's
and
pretty
they may have
cool.
said, "Hey, yeah." So they'd say, "Hey, maybe you would like to enjoy this electric motorcycle," which they would then sort of we have salespeople there on site. So they would say, "Hey, look, I can save money. Great, I'm interested." So they would go to our showroom. They may have first interacted with the bike there, and then while they're fueling their regular motorcycle, maybe even taking it for a test drive. At which point they're invited to come to the showroom to actually fill out a credit application. They do that. That takes a few minutes, and then we run our process, and they are offered a loan or not, depending on the circumstance, and and then they can basically ride off in a new bike. The process, start to finish, can take as little as a couple hours or as much as 24 hours, but it's pretty efficient.
And they're driving away on a bike. They're feeling loud and proud, and they're now having
Well, they're not feeling very loud because it's a lot more quiet. But
hey,
yeah,
good point.
go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
This is an investment in their future. They're coming out ahead. Like, how does a rider like?
Huge. Yeah, so the savings are huge. So our riders are saving about 40 to 50% on their operating expenses from day one. So it's just, and not only are they saving money, but it's just a better experience. So I know you have an electric car, Chris, I believe, right?
Not at the moment, but it's there's
You
electric to
okay?
part of my vehicle. Yes.
So, but you've driven an electric car before, so you know what
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that same feeling on a motorcycle, which basically you get when you drive our Spark electric motorcycle. It's just better, faster, and cheaper, actually. So our riders now have been with us for some of them about 2 years now, paying daily for energy, saving daily, and it's great because they are just incredibly happy. So what they report at the end of the day are a couple of things. Number one, of course, they're saving a lot of money. Number two, they're less tired at the end of the day. So they are just going home more well rested after a long day at the office, riding around, so to speak. And the bike is their office. They refer to that as their office. Um, and so that's like two really amazing things. The third thing is they're getting more repeat customers because they can hear each other talk, and
Mm.
people like talking to their taxi driver, and they're also able to go to places where other regular motorcycles are restricted, like the central business district here in Nairobi does not allow gas motorcycles, but they allow my motorcycles because of how quiet and eco-friendly they are.
Really? That's quite
Yeah.
a development. The pollution levels in a city must be dramatically affected by that then. Given the I'm just thinking like some of these older bikes, if I recall, can put all kinds of pollution and be, real contributors to less quality of life, a lower quality of life, as it were.
Absolutely. I mean, basically, you're looking at The normal workhorse here that most guys ride is a Bajaj 150cc motorcycle.
Okay.
That motorcycle, when it's about a year old, um, gets about 30 to 35 kilometers per single liter. The engine that it uses is basically Indian technology from 1970s. It's actually it's not even legal in India anymore, but they ship it here to Kenya because it's
Huh.
cheap, right? And so it's incredibly polluting. So yeah, we're absolutely just knocking them down one rider at a time. Removing about three tons of CO2 per rider in the process. So yeah, with time, we're going to see a huge reduction in sort of air pollution. And some of my friends are also doing some cool stuff on, with electric buses as well, which is a huge contributor of some of the smog that you see in the city.
So I've got a bike from you. I'm in the Powerhive, call them payment schedule and whatnot. I take my bike home and I'm plugging it in. I'm finding somewhere like a charge station. Like what's my day look like now with this?
So basically, you basically just exchange the battery to any one of our swapping stations. So you basically go to any one of our participating Rubis or Shell petrol stations, and you scan a QR code. You've got an app, so you're part of the club, so to speak, in the network. And if you basically pay 450 shillings for unlimited battery swapping at any one of our locations. So you just basically go and exchange a battery, and you'll get about 80 to 120 kilometers on a single charge. Depends on how you drive it, but it's very very simple. So the adoption time is very very quick for our customers.
And so you as the energy provider, how do you call it keep track of what your batteries are charging at or where your batteries are? Or like how do you guys deal with that sort of ecosystem management?
So all of our batteries and bikes have trackers in them, and we're actually measuring a lot of different things. So we're measuring, the temperature of the battery. We're measuring obviously the location where it is, acceleration of the battery, so we know how fast certain drivers are riding versus others, um, and voltage, and a lot of different parameters that we look at to understand the health and the projected longevity of the batteries and things like that. So it's important for us to really I mean, essentially managing a fleet of batteries and figuring out, and many of those batteries are going to be powered from solar. Some of them are powered from the grid, which Kenya has a preferential tariff for EVs, and the grid here is 93% renewable, so it's a very clean alternative, which is amazing. So we're
Yeah.
very fortunate here in Kenya to have such a high geothermal resource.
So what kind of um, longevity does uh, the life cycle, say, of your battery? If you're managing it, you're using AI or algorithms to manage your battery and stuff. I'm looking at this and going, oh, batteries, they're the flavor of the day right now, but nobody's dealt with disposal. Nobody's dealt with next gen life of of a battery. Where are you guys in that process, and how do you guys think about it?
So a couple things. Number one, we are very very interested in maximizing obviously the longevity of the batteries, and we do that by sort of making sure that we are monitoring each battery individually, and
Hmm.
then based on its behavior over time, we're able to basically predict what the likely cycle life and calendar life of that battery is. Um, so at some point in 5+ years from now, some of our batteries are going to reach maybe 70% or 80% of their original capacity. At that point, we actually have um, an inverter that people can use to basically power their house from that same battery. So that battery may not be applicable for the motorcycle anymore, but it's certainly enough to basically provide backup battery power for the house. The other thing to think about is that we also will be able to recycle these batteries. We work with recycling companies that, well, internally we can basically test and take it apart, test individually each cell, and figure out how to maybe, you know, salvage some of the cells or some of these things if that's the case. But if that's not the case, at the very end of life, we have partnerships with companies that will help us basically recycle the batteries and everything.
So what does the life cycle then of the product look like for you, for the customer? It's the, hey, these are all being manufactured, or you're getting them from somebody in another country, you are assembling them. Like what I ordered a bike, and it's, how's it gotten to East Africa? What's the process there?
Okay, so the batteries come from Samsung. So the cells are coming from South Korea. Um, the the various electronics come from different parts of the world. Actually, the chipsets come from the U.S. For example, it just depends on which aspect of the battery we're talking about. Those batteries are assembled into packs. Initially, we've done that pack assembly with our partners in China, who have built hundreds of thousands of packs before. We're actually in the process right now of setting up pack assembly here in Kenya,
Hmm.
as well as obviously the maintenance of our packs is something that we've already set up, but we're building that up as we speak. And so really the parts come from all over the place, and then they're basically assembled in terms of the bike itself is assembled right here in Kenya, in Nairobi. We're partnered with a company called Mobius Motors, who are a preeminent uh, car brand in Kenya, and they do assemble beautiful cars in this part of the world. And so we partnered with them because we felt that they would be a good partner to basically manage all the assembly and the spare parts of the bike, so that we could focus more on the battery swapping technology, the batteries, and our making sure our riders are happy.
So I mean, by sharing this, you kind of stick with your strengths. It's the
Yeah,
moving a wrench maybe isn't the best thing for you, but moving an electron is.
exactly. We see that as being where the sort of longer term higher value is. And it's also just not our strength. There's people that can basically, assemble and the process. I mean, down the road, who knows? Maybe we have to get into that at some point. But right now, it's not something that we're really focused on, and it's worked out so far pretty well.
Where is your company in the spectrum of what you do? Are you a tech company? Are you an energy company? Are you, ESG? Like, what are you? Like, if you had to put a moniker, like, how do you identify yourself?
I'd say we're very much a tech-enabled energy company. We're energy. I would say energy company is our core.
Yeah.
Really enabled by some of the tech that's now sort of become available. Whether it's the mobile money platform that we've built our fintech application around to really help us understand our customer and how to score give them a credit score and understand how assess the risk. All the way to the sort of the IoT or the traceability and the data that we get out of our batteries to really understand what's happening there. So it's like all these different sort of intersection of electrons with sort of AI and is really I wouldn't even say like it's really the intersection of electrons uh, uh, and computer software and hardware basically that basically allows us to do what we do.
So you truly are a merge of, or a blend of, call it Silicon Valley finally hits the continent, and gear from East Asia is hitting the continent, and you're trying to bring it all together and go, hey, there's something in the middle of all this.
Yeah, there is actually. So I mean, Asia has really led the way. Our friends at Gogoro in Taiwan have really shown us what's possible with this model and shown how they can be, make a business work. We've just applied some of that logic with a logic that is, here in terms of what's possible in terms of the local ingenuity of the continent in Kenya. There's a lot of really smart people here and a lot of smart engineers here as well that we've tapped into. And then, as you said, we've also tapped into our network in California and Silicon Valley, where this all started effectively. So, sort of like this, an amalgamation of a lot of different ingredients from all over the world, I guess.
All of that means you're not only, call it, cleaning the air, providing a lower cost transportation, you're creating jobs at the same time. What does that look like, as part of your network as well?
Well, the job creation comes down to sort of a couple of things. One is mainly the assembly of the bikes, the assembly of the battery packs, and the maintenance of the bikes, the maintenance of a lot of those jobs in terms of the maintenance of bikes are already there. So we're just shifting people's, in terms of fixing, instead of fixing a clutch, we're showing them how to repair, an electric motor or something else, right? So those things are already there. Our customers are just, again, we're just taking a guy or gal that's been driving an old, or a normal motorcycle and saying, hey, here's a better option. So it's actually relatively simple business model. What makes it complicated is all these different pieces have to come together really
Mm,
well. Okay, so like you
yeah.
can't just take a bike from China and stick it on the road in Kenya and expect it to work, you know, for a long time out of the gates. We tried that, and it took us a while to figure out, like, again, that even if you buy an expensive motorcycle, and you think, hey, look, just to test the model, we did that as well, and we brought it here, an electric motorcycle. It lasted like a month and a half, and then it was just basically landfill at that point. It's actually in our graveyard, and we're figuring out what to do with it. But like, so it's really getting all those different things to come together, from cost of capital for the financing for our motorcycle riders, to our customers, to the cost of capital for the infrastructure, to the tech itself. Obviously, has to be the underlying thing that supports everything. But ultimately, it's really that customer, and we're basically just we're disrupting an old, antiquated supply chain of oil and gas into an old motorcycle, and basically replacing it with solar to battery, battery to rider. Just a way more efficient way to go.
So rather than the social cause benefit of that, what's the size of the market? I mean, if you're replacing this, like what's the market that you're replacing?
In East Africa, there are 5 million regular motorcycles that all have a shelf life of about 3 to 4 years. So we're basically looking at and it's growing, right? So that's just East Africa,
Wow.
which is where our focus is. So that's basically it. That's our core area of focus at the moment.
That fleet of bikes has a life of what? 5 years, 10 years, 3 years? Like what is that
Our bikes
turnover?
are the
No,
existing bike.
of the existing bikes out there. Like, hey, they're,
3 to 4 years. If you're lucky, you get 4 years. Some guy,
really.
like these guys, they work these bikes pretty hard, and then they start breaking down, and then the maintenance cost goes up, the efficiency of the engine goes down. They're spending more on fuel. It's just a. So I mean, you're spending just on maintenance alone. If you're really taking care of your bike, you're spending around $35 a month on maintenance. Actually, it's a little bit less than that. It's like about 3,000, 4,000 shillings. So that's about what, 30 bucks nowadays, something like that.
So, I mean, really, like you said, if you guys are at the fill up station at the Shell and you're like, hey, here's an option and you can save money rather than spending money, they're jumping all over you.
Yeah, we've got a lot of demand, and we are really excited by that demand. Now we just have to basically fulfill that demand, and that's what I'm really focused on at the moment: raising capital and getting partners on board to really help us realize this opportunity.
So what on the presumption that you've got the capital, you've got the market. What does your supply chain look like? Because everybody goes, "Oh, post-COVID supply chains are disrupted." Like, do you guys have issues with that, or is that
No,
like no?
those days are in the rear view mirror, I'd say. I mean, there's obviously takes time to ramp things up, but it's the supply chain is it's not really the issue anymore. You know, battery prices have come down, solar's come down in price. Yeah, so I'd say things are back to normal.
That's, and the looks like the growth curve in front of you guys with this changeover of the fleet, over the next 3 to 5 years is going to change
Oh
over.
yeah, there's
Says
not
you've got a growth highway in front
yeah.
of you for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just a matter of making sure you have the network set up so that the convenience is there for riders to basically be able to tap into and exchange. I mean, again, the same business model kind of it already exists with LPG gas canisters. You know,
Yeah,
you have
good
one at your
point.
barbecue. You know, it's sort of
Yeah.
you can go to any gas station and basically swap it out for a full LPG canister. Same idea, just more tech enabled and
And I would think that this would be a very, we'll call it forward-looking view for uh, gas stations, convenience store type enterprises to be looking to, because they're trying to attract a new type of rider, and they're still coming to their convenience store. They're still doing all that stuff. The cars haven't all gone
yeah.
electric, so they still need to be buying petrol for that. But meanwhile, you've got the Boda drivers coming in and getting a glass of water or a chicken or whatever is at their place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a hell of a lot more margin in things other than fuel. Fuel is a tiny, the profit margins in fuel are very, very, very small. So it's really a volume game and it's a real estate game for a lot of these, for the oil and gas companies. You know, selling a cup of coffee, you get make more money margin on a cup of coffee than you do filling up a tank of gas on a boat, for example. So yeah, it's really the future. The other thing to bear in mind is the middle class here is growing quite a bit. So the 5 million number I told you about was just for motorcycle taxis. There's a whole emerging commuter customer that's also coming online, which is gonna, more than double that number over the next 10 years or so. But yeah, big opportunities. We're on the right side of things in terms of economic, social, and it's also good for the government. If governments go electric, they're not spending all their forex or their U.S. dollars on buying fuel, so it strengthens their currency. So and so we're actually seeing the local governments here embrace sort of the policies and so forth around electric mobility in this part of the world. So
Yeah.
I think there's a perceived risk still in this, and there are actual real risks in this part of the world, but a lot of them are perceived risks
Yeah.
in terms of doing business here. And I think, I've been fortunate to have partners that know me and know the work I've done here. So they've sort of been able to support us to do what we've been able to do so far. But carbon doesn't see any boundaries.
Hmm.
Carbon, 3 tons of carbon here is the
Yeah.
same. You'll feel it it's the same in Canada
Yeah.
or North anywhere. So I think, investors that are focused on climate change and climate tech really should not overlook the continent.
And the fact that you've partnered with, name like that, you've been able to build these relationships with a Shell, with a Rubis. I mean, those are international brands that have seen the value of what you're providing in a forward leaning jurisdiction, which says as they continue to expand throughout the continent, so can you.
Absolutely, and they see the financial benefit of doing that as well.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not cannibalizing their market with something that's less profitable. In fact, they're making more money in the partnership with me than they do on selling fuel, which is pretty exciting. So we're showing the big oil and gas companies, so a lot of these guys already know about this, right? So, but we're in this part of the world anyway. We're showing them, a different way of doing things that is making other customers happy. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's important to keep everyone sort of straight go with the flow, so to speak, and not try and piss anyone off in the process, and just keep your customers happy.
So somewhere along the way in your journey with energy, with solar, with entrepreneurship, you've stubbed your toe. Where would you say the biggest lesson you've learned from stubbing your toe has been?
I've stubbed my toe a lot of times, Chris. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Let me think about that. No, that's just part of the course here. I would have to say, like, we've worked in different communities, and some communities that we've worked with in terms of in the rural settings here have been easier to deal with than others. Okay,
Oh, okay.
these are
Yeah.
sort of so. I'd say that sort of one of the lessons there is really like understand the local context of the environment that you're working in. Really understand that what's at play in terms of the people living in those places, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of on the ground knowledge about what's happening between, this area and this neighborhood versus this neighborhood. How are they getting along? Like, we've been caught in the crossfire. Not actually literally, there's no guns here
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
like that, but we've dealt with some situations where, with a bit more due diligence and sort of a bit more really understanding the ethnographic sort of ethnographic sort of power struggles that happen within a community would have basically helped us a lot in terms of
Is
investing in
that then
one place versus
a
another.
barrier to growth in other jurisdictions, or is that an asset?
I think those sort of those sort of that was just one of the courses in my PhD of doing things on the continent. But like
Yeah.
I think just having that right sort of perspective and that approach and the experience that we've had and gained over the last 10 plus years building assets here in the continent and in Kenya, we've deployed almost 1 million kilometers of distribution cable as the country's first privately licensed utility and selling power to thousands and thousands of people. Has been a real journey. But so it's just again really just understanding the step by step sort of process of basically from ideation to full scale deployment and commissioning of energy assets, and really understanding that customer and how they interact with what you're doing is something that we've spent a lot of time getting really good at. And so we're extremely confident in what we're doing right now and we're proud of where we came from. We're confident in terms of where we're going. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
You know
Yeah,
what? Isn't that the great
so
thing? Like
yeah,
when you're enjoying
yeah,
what you're doing, that becomes, yes, long hours happen, all the rest of it, but you kind of wake up and you go, I got this guy I got to see. This is pretty cool, right? That's the fun part
yeah,
of being in a,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So that said, what's the best feedback you've ever been given from a customer?
Best feedback.
Something that, warmed the cockles of your soul, or something that you went, yeah, I did that right, or my team, like what's something that you just went, yeah, like,
So we got some feedback recently about, so we offer an insurance program to our customers. So when they do their battery swapping, automatically they qualify for life insurance and health insurance.
okay.
And yeah, so that it's just part of the fee that we charge in terms of if they get that as part of it. And so we got feedback. So unfortunately, one of our customers a month or two ago had an accident, went to the hospital. He was fine, but like spent 2 or 3 nights in the hospital. And he just said to me, Chris, this is, that really saved me. It was okay. I think it was maybe $150 worth of coverage, but that's a lot of money here.
Yeah.
And then he provided feedback to me and my team via a group that we have because someone else had an accident. And he said, "Look, this is great. It works. They pay it, the whole thing." And thanks to Powerhive, for looking out for us. So I'd say that's probably the one that comes to mind most recently that I really was happy about.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty amazing to have that kind of impact in real lives. right? Not
Yeah,
an esoteric. It's a real life, somebody
it's
that's,
real. They're like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, cool. Okay, so one of the things I ask everybody on all these podcasts is this closing question, is to say, if you were able to chat with one person on the continent and either ask them something or have a dinner conversation with them about something, who would that be and what would it be about?
Um, I would have to say that I'd like to have a conversation with my customers and some of my future customers to understand where and what they're looking for, moving forward, and just get more insights from them. Understand things like I'd like to understand, with all the money that we're saving them, and we're saving some of our customers $200-300 a month. Some of them, what are they doing with that money? How's that actually improving their lives? Um, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'd also like to talk to some of I'd like to also probably have dinner with some of the presidents here, like President Ruto. He's doing a great job. But love to. It would be nice to sort of meet him as well, I suppose. I have met him once, but I think you asked if it was a dinner party or something. But no, but like
Yeah.
ultimately, what drives me, I'd say, I would go back to the original answer, which is my customers,
Yeah.
and really just some of the customers that we have, and some of the customers that I haven't actually met yet, just to sort of get a deeper understanding of what they're looking for.
No, that's really cool. So, Chris, if anybody listening to this podcast wants to get a hold of Powerhive or connect, where can they find you? Website, social media, different things like that. And we'll make sure these get put in the show notes as well. But if you just let everybody know, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So it's my email is chris@powerhive.com. We're also on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, all the other handles. But that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Okay, great. Then we'll put those things in the notes and we'll take it from there. Thanks so much for joining us on Energy in Africa for this episode, and look forward to seeing your growth continue. It's something to follow for sure.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good one.
All right.